You're watching Channel 6, WDSU-TV, New Orleans. Tonight's episode of The Pretender and Profiler will be delayed until 1 a.m. in order to bring you this Channel 6 News special presentation. It's election night. The polls have just closed, and you're watching the first television station to cover Louisiana politics. Channel 6 News presents Decision 98. And now, here's Norman Robinson and Susan Roseton.
Good evening. I'm Norman Robinson.
And I'm Susan Roseton. The polls are now closed, and we'll start bringing you the results as they come in a number of key races. Among
them, the race for the city's top post, and it's a safe bet to report that Mayor Mark Morial is the odds-on favorite to be re-elected as mayor of New Orleans.
So let's join Michael Marsh and Melanie Sanders. They're at the mayor's victory party at Le Méridien Hotel.
Well, it's slow but sure here at the Le Méridien and the Morial headquarters. Not too many people in here right now. People are slowly, very slowly filtering in. It's expected that more people will start to show up after the polls have closed. Now they've closed, people are expected to show up. The winner over Kathleen Cresson and Paul Bordelot. As a matter of fact, Bordelot is marching in a Mardi Gras parade tonight, so I guess he even knows it's going to be a shoe-in for Morial, even though that the turnout was quite low today.
Very, very low. We were talking to Bob Dabney, who is the mayor's campaign press secretary. He was saying about 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon, the turnout in the black community was about 16% and the white community about 23%. Of course, the clerk's office was hoping for about 50%, so they have a long way to go. Of course, the numbers are just now coming in. Right. We don't exactly know if we've reached that 50% pinnacle, but of course it still looks like the mayor will do very well tonight.
And while hopefully everyone's watching Channel 6 for those numbers to come in, they're also watching over here on the internet. There's a huge screen set up for people to watch the numbers, so as people come in, of course they'll be easily knowing that Morial will win. He isn't expected to actually show up until around 10 o'clock to give his victory speech, and we'll keep you up to date here at the Le Méridien. Back to you.
All right, we'll check in with you then. So the real question may be tonight just how large the mayor's victory is going to be.
Some are predicting this election will be unprecedented in the terms of the margin of victory that the mayor will receive tonight.
Actually, the record was set in 1961 when Victor Skiro got 81% of the vote, and beating that record may be a bit tough. According to our Channel 6 Cox Communications poll taken just last week, 69% of the voters we asked want Mayor Morial for a second term. Just 5% then were leaning toward Kathleen Cresson. Paul Bordelot, just 1%.
And despite Morial's popularity, most voters don't want to change the city's charter to allow Morial to serve a consecutive third term, at least not yet. Something his father, Dutch Morial, tried unsuccessfully. 54% in our poll opposed changing the charter, 36% supported.
So taking a closer look now at the mayor's race, with us are our Channel 6 political analysts, Silas Lee and Susan Howell. Silas, do you think votes for Kathleen Cresson in this, a long-shot candidate, or Paul Bordelot, are really votes that are a protest message against the mayor?
Oh, without a doubt. In any election, you will always have a built-in 15 to 25% of the voters opposing the incumbent or a particular issue. So without a doubt, the votes that Kathleen Cresson will get and Paul Bauer will get, definitely a protest vote.
Dr. Howell, what is the significant factor of a protest vote in this particular election where you have a strong, popular incumbent?
Right. A protest vote is a strong disapproval of the incumbent. That means you're voting against the incumbent for a candidate that you don't really know and haven't heard that much about. And I think we've seen in polls of white voters that there is maybe 25% of white voters that strongly disapprove of the mayor. So the question is, will they go into the ballot box and cast a vote for another candidate, or will they just bypass that election altogether?
And your gut feeling?
I think there is a 15% protest vote out there, but that still would give the mayor 80 to 85%. I think he might get in the upper 70s, around 80, which would be a very strong endorsement.
And in terms of a third term run for the mayor, I guess the gap is still in favor of the opposition, but nonetheless the gap is closing. So would you say that the chances for a third term as far as Morial, the son, is more favorable than they were for his father, Dutch?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Different political environment. Dutch Morial was facing tough economic times and entering a period of uncertainty. However, Mark Morial has a lot of things going in his favor. Voters feel something is being done about crime. They're confident with the quality of leadership in the police department, city hall, the mayor's office, the city council. The economy seems to be picking up. He has a lot of things going in his favor. So the chances of a third term passing for Mark Morial much better than the chances were for his father. However, keep in mind those individuals who have been waiting to run for mayor. We don't know how that will affect them, what position they will take. So there are a lot of unanswered questions about a third term, but the chances are better this time around.
And another factor that makes it more positive for Mark is the fact that the electorate is about 12 to 13% more black than it was when Dutch ran, and I think that definitely helps him to possibly pass a third-term amendment.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Thank you very much. We'll be talking with you a little later in the broadcast. And the mayor's race aside, Susan, perhaps the most exciting race we'll be watching tonight is the horse race that's evolved for the council at large seats.
This is a close one. In our Channel 6 Cox Communications poll again, Jim Singleton is in the lead with 29%. Peggy Wilson is right behind with 23% of the voters we asked, while newcomer Eddie Saper, who was a former councilman himself years ago, has just 16%. But there is a large undecided vote in this race, 29% according to our poll.
And so, as you've seen with the numbers, this is definitely the race to watch throughout the evening. We have election crews out at the parties for all three of the top candidates in that race. Heath Allen is live at Jim Singleton's party, Scott Simmons live from the headquarters of Peggy Wilson, and Ken Jones at the Eddie Saper party at the Fairmont Hotel. Let's begin now with Heath Allen.
Well, Norman, the polls have closed now, and people are beginning to breathe that sigh of relief. They're getting ready to come down to the various halls and watch the election returns come in. Jim Singleton is here with me now. You feel pretty good about the way the race has gone, barring some unforeseen upset. You should be heading into your next term as councilman at large.
I feel good that I will be. I'm already beginning to just think about how I'm going to get there, what I'm going to do when I get there, and the kind of things we want to do for the next 4 years.
What is it that you want to do for the next 4 years? We've pretty well attacked the crime problem now. Is it just a continuation?
I just want to see this city get to be a better city, and I think that means continue to reduce crime problems, looking at our education system, looking at whether it's drainage, the airport, all those things that we have out here, the whole business-friendly concept that we would like to make this city. And it's all part of the concept with the mayor to rebuild New Orleans.
Term limits at the end of this, you can't run for council at large anymore. Your own district or maybe another office?
We cross that bridge when we get to it. That, you know, I have options that are open to me at this point. That is to do nothing, relax, or to look at something else. But I would not go back to the district.
You feel comfortable about tonight?
I feel very comfortable.
All right, Jim Singleton, councilman at large, looks to be the winner in this race, looking for another 4 years on the council. With Peggy Wilson now, Scott Simmons is standing by. Scotty?
That's right, Heath. Things are starting to pick up here, joining in the candidate. How do you feel now the election? The polls closed just a few short moments ago.
Well, it's the best time of the day when the polls close and finally all the anticipation can come to fruition. We're very excited. We worked hard. Our people worked hard, and we feel like they got our message. They understood about voting only for one, and we're sure that that's what they did.
You had some last-minute campaign trauma you might consider with a flurry of flyers, suggestion a vote with Saper with you, it would be okay in your opinion. Certainly that's not the case. You had to do some campaign damage in that regard.
Well, we knew that he was going to send out that flyer. We had a report ahead of time that it was going to be done, so we did print our warning to people. Don't be fooled by the kind of tricks that the Saper campaign is involved in. But anyway, we think the people understand what I represent and what I mean, and they're not going to be fooled by cheap political tricks.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Peggy Wilson. Candidate going to be watching the numbers as they come in. It is certainly no coincidence, you should know, her campaign headquarters are located directly across the street from Mayor Mark Morial's house. We'll tell you more about that as the night progresses. Back to you, Ken Jones.
All right, Scott, over here at the Eddie Saper headquarters, no one here but us chickens, reporters, and bartenders at this point. For the most part, Eddie Saper still, I guess, resting from a day of campaigning throughout the entire area. No place in particular he went. He was in the bar rooms and the beauty parlors and the barbershops kissing babies, really leaving nothing to chance in this election to get back on the council after leaving it 31 years ago. Of course, he joined up with Mayor Mark Morial a little later in the day. He went around with the mayor, not so much supporting the mayor, but really getting support from the mayor for his own bid to upset Peggy Wilson and take her out of the council. Of course, no secret here, Mayor Morial has wanted Wilson out of the council for some time. But as I understand it, we don't know where we stand at this point in that race. As far as Eddie Saper making it to his headquarters, I'm told by his campaign people, he will arrive probably sometime when he's sure the race is going one way or another. So at that point, we'll be able to give his comments to you and let you know what he thinks about the race at this point. Let's send it back to you, Norman and Susie.
All right, Ken, thank you.
Yeah, take care of those chickens. Let's talk again with Silas Lee and Susan Howell about this race and what's going to be the deciding factor here, I suppose, is the question that we should begin with in considering the council at large race.
Well, in some ways, this was a referendum on Peggy Wilson. It was really between Peggy Wilson and Eddie Saper. I think Eddie Saper's campaign was just too little, too late. The voters don't know who he is. He never really had a realistic chance starting that late. The life endorsement or the mayor's endorsement can mean a lot or can mean less than a lot, depending on how active the organization is. And it doesn't seem, given the turnout levels, that the organization was very active, and Eddie Saper is totally dependent on that.
Silas, how effective do you think is the push from one candidate to the voters to vote for just one candidate? Do voters buy that?
Well, historically, voters have voted for two candidates. However, we probably will see an increase in the number of voters single shooting this time. What percentage, we don't know. Some polls had about 10% to 20%, and it could increase. So that's going to be a significant factor that will determine who wins in this particular race. And the council at large members, as well as all of the council members, they are benefiting from the perception that things are pretty good in the city of New Orleans. And whenever you have that attitude among voters, it's difficult for a challenger to develop and convince voters that they should throw out some of the current council members.
Now, one of the most heated controversies, as everybody knows, is surrounded Peggy Wilson. I mean, everybody's been keying on Peggy Wilson. I got a call today from somebody out in the trenches who said that you should hear Peggy Wilson's phone bank messages telling people that the mayor has spent $1 million on her race and she's asking white voters to vote once. Did the mayor spend $1 million to get Peggy Wilson out of the race?
Well, if he had spent $1 million, we would have seen it. We didn't see it. I think we would have seen City Hall workers out 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago on the weekends. We didn't see it. We're seeing 47% black turnout at this point, so I don't think we're seeing $1 million. Actually, I think the mayor's endorsement of Eddie Saper was sort of a half-hearted attempt to give Peggy Wilson some trouble and make her spend a little money.
Norman, the mayor did not spend $1 million on his race, I don't think, so needless to say.
What about Eddie Saper's 11th hour ad featuring his wife and his son complaining about Peggy Wilson's alleged attacks on them? How effective is that kind of ad this late in the game?
Not that effective, because essentially it was too little too late. And in an ad like that, you need time for voters to see that ad, to digest it, and really cause some controversy and discussion in the electorate so that they can say, well, maybe we should not vote for the other candidates because this is what they have said. So you need time for that to really sink in with voters and for them to digest it.
And he didn't get it?
2 days, not enough.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you both, and we'll be talking to you again a little later. But right now, stay tuned for the very latest election results.
Our Decision 98 continues from this city's first station to cover politics in New Orleans, the first station in the city, WDSU-TV.
Very nice.
It's a sweetheart of a deal at A1 Appliance for the whole month of February. Shop at A1 Appliance for the best deals and biggest selection. Give her an appliance from A1 and we'll give you a wonderful bouquet of flowers from Villery's Florist. At A1 Appliance, get the guaranteed lowest prices and 0% interest for 15 months. We're talking a sweetheart of a deal. Buy a new appliance and get a beautiful free bouquet for your sweetheart from Villery's. We won't tell. At A1 Appliance, we're talking big.
Let Misa Services remodel your kitchen or customize your bathroom, adding beauty and value to your home. Call Misa Services today. Call Billiot Pest Control for environmentally friendly pest control and say goodbye to ants, roaches, and fleas. Call Billiot Pest Control today.
Don't replace that car, replace your engine. Give your car years of new life with a remanufactured engine from Pro Engine Sales. Financing available.
Quick Trim Weight Loss Clinics specialize in one thing, helping you lose weight. Don't go it alone. Call Quick Trim Weight Loss Clinics for help.
Tulane University Hospital and Clinic, in partnership with Tulane Medical Center, has had a commitment to providing quality health care to Louisiana and the Gulf South for more than 150 years. This tradition of health and healing, in conjunction with educating the next generation of doctors, has made Tulane known and respected throughout the world. When you choose Tulane, you choose expertise and medical innovation in every field of healthcare. It's the most educated healthcare decision you can make. For information, call our access line.
Has the zip in your car finally run out of gas? Tired of fixing and fighting it? Volunteers of America will take it off your hands and offer you free towing. We'll even take that old truck, boat, or motorcycle, whether it's running or not, and you could get a tax deduction for your donation. Call Volunteers of America at 1-800-427-6327 and help yourself while helping over 16,000 children, families, and adults in Greater New Orleans. Call Volunteers of America at 1-800-427-6327 to donate your vehicle and get a possible tax deduction.
And welcome back. You're watching a special election coverage from the city's and the state's first television station, WDSU. In addition to the hotly contested council-at-large race, there are also 3 seats for individual council districts up for grab. And it's unlikely any of the incumbents will be unseated tonight. In the case of Roy Glapion, voters who responded to our recent Channel 6 Cox Communications poll, well, they gave the councilman high marks for job performance. That, despite recent negative publicity following his arrest on drunk driving charges. According to our poll, 15% say he's doing an excellent job in office, 40% say he's doing pretty good, and 22% say only fair, and only 8% say he's doing a poor job. His supporters are hoping this support will parlay into an easy victory tonight. Susan Roberts is live at Glampion's headquarters at the Walnut Room at Lakefront Airport. Susan.
Norman, lots of friends and supporters here tonight. I think just about everyone associated with Roy Glapion is here, but Roy Glapion himself. As you said, and as our polls have shown, and the pollsters have said earlier in the week, Roy Glapion is expected to win this race tonight pretty easily. His opponent, Anna P. Johnson, is no stranger, though, to New Orleans, having worked in the public schools for 20 years and having worked in both Dutch Morial and Sidney Bartholomew's campaign. So she was not a no-namer by any means, but she really has failed to show up for this election, for this campaign. We haven't seen much from her. We haven't heard from her. Calls to her, in fact, have gone unanswered. And the drunk driving charge that Roy Glapion faces might have been a factor had she pushed it or other people pushed it, but no word on that at all. So with the district being 80% Democrat, seeing that she's a Republican, a lot of people expect her to win, him to win this one tonight. Norman, back to you.
All right, Susan, take care. We'll check with you a little later. Susan?
Well, another councilman who appears headed for re-election is Oliver Thomas, whose district includes, among other areas, Central City. His job performance numbers in our recent Channel 6 poll are also very favorable. 15% of the voters we asked believe Oliver Thomas is doing an excellent job in office. 45% say he's doing a pretty good job. 24% rate him fair. Thomas got very little negative response from our voters. Only 2% say they think he's doing a poor job. Tonight, Thomas supporters are beginning to gather at the Holiday Inn Crown Plaza, where Thomas is sharing his election night party with Councilman Jim Singleton. Melanie Schubergs is there for us. Melanie.
Good evening, Susie. We are coming live to you from Oliver Thomas's headquarters here at the Holiday Inn Crown Plaza, where this is turning into a victory party for him. His opponent, Diane Prunty Williams, didn't really put on much of a campaign. She didn't publicly campaign, and she really didn't do any of the debates or even square off with Thomas on any of the issues facing the city of New Orleans. Thomas joins me right now. How was that for you, not really having much of an opponent, someone who's out there, but yet didn't really run for the money like in some of the other races?
Well, I would never really categorize anybody as not much of an opponent. She was on radio, she had signs, and she canvassed. I think it was just the fact that I'm in touch with my district, I work hard, I love my job, and I'm very visible in the community. And hopefully the victory that I get tonight will be a testimony to what I've tried to do in the last 4 years.
And speaking of the next 4 years, what's going on? What will you look for in the next 4 years on the city council? Some major issues that you'll focus on.
Well, I'm going to focus on literacy, abandoned houses, and of course crime. One of the things I'd like to see is more police substations in other neighborhoods around the community. I mean, it's nice that the French Quarter and the CBD are real safe with a lot of police visibility, but it'd be great to have more police in Algiers, more police in Central City, more police.
And is that what your people are saying to you out in the community? Do they want to see more police, obviously?
That's absolutely correct. They appreciate the job that Chief Pennington has done, but they really would like to see more visibility in some of those areas that are kind of forgotten, because you still have a lot of drug dealing, you still have a lot of crime in a lot of neighborhoods where people don't really come out of their homes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. As you can see, some things going on in the future that he's planning for. A lot of crime for the city of New Orleans, trying to fight that. And it looks like a victory party. Looks like a shoe-in for Thomas this evening. Diane Prunty Williams not being very visible in the community, but of course, Thomas is here and trying to celebrate this evening. Back to you.
Well, it's not over till it's over. So
not over till it's over, but it looks like it's going to be a shoe-in for him this evening.
All right, Melanie. We do have some new numbers now coming in.
Yes, the polls have been closed for about 20 minutes now. Let's take a look at the Council at Large race. And there we are. Challenger Eddie Saper, 11%, and Chuck West, 3%.
With just 1% of the precincts reporting at this time. Stephen Berry dropped out of the race, but his name was still on the ballot. Couldn't get it off in time, so you see he has 1% of the vote.
And Papa Gant, 1%. David Marcello in the 4th Circuit Court of Appeal race with 45% of the vote. James McKay, former criminal district judge, 20-something%.
Now that's going to be a very tight race. Philip Ciascio Jr., the son of the former judge, has 26%.
And the clerk of court race, Dale Atkins, the incumbent, leading handily 83% to 17%, with 1% of the precincts reporting.
In the recorder of mortgages race, a really hot and sort of nasty race toward the end, the incumbent, Michael McCrossan, 78%, to the challenger, Desiree Charbonnet.
And recorder of mortgages, last candidate, Shedrick Roy.
He's off the ballot now.
No votes. He's off the chart.
He was on the ballot, but he had withdrawn before his name could be removed. Traffic court judge, taking a look at this. Bobby Jones, one of the strong contenders apparently in this race with 30%. Donald Pryor, 21%.
And in the race for traffic court judge as well, Yvonne Hughes, perennial candidate, 16%.
Several candidates, as you see in this race. Morris Reed, 7%. Arthur Morrell, just 7%.
And bringing up the rear, Vernon Thomas with 6% of the vote in the race for traffic court judge.
So those are the new numbers, the first numbers that we've had come in tonight. And coming up, we'll check in with more numbers and more election night parties.
And we'll have some updated numbers. Stay tuned to your best source for your election night coverage. Don't go far.
The response to Kirschman's big event was so huge, we're holding it over through Sunday. Save on every item in the store and buy with no interest for 6 months through tomorrow at Kirschman's.
Don't replace that car, replace your engine. Give your car years of new life with a remanufactured engine from Pro Engine Sales. Financing available.
Let Armor Roofing and Gutter install a new roof with a lifetime warranty right over your existing roof. This innovative roofing material is made of steel with a crushed and graded stone coating. Fire retardant, strong and affordable. The last roof you'll ever need. Armor Roofing and Gutter.
Mesha Camping is affordable and fun with a motorhome from Cajun Camping. Trade-ins and financing available. See Cajun Camping.
I work downtown. And I can't tell you what a hassle it used to be to get my Toyota to a dealer for service. Until I discovered Lakeside Toyota. Their service department is open till midnight during the week and all day Saturday. They have a shuttle van that takes me home, to work, or even Lakeside Mall. And when they say my Toyota is going to be ready at a certain time, they mean it. The folks at Lakeside Toyota understand how important my time is to me, and I like that. Thanks, Lakeside Toyota, for working around my schedule.
Hi, I'm Margaret Orr. As a mother, I know how tough it is to talk to kids. But imagine if your child is autistic. How would you reach them? You can call Gulf Coast Teaching Family Services. Since 1983, it's been helping children break out of the isolated world of autism. Donate your used car, boat, or RV to Gulf Coast Teaching Family Services. You get a tax deduction, but more importantly, you help a child with autism. Remember, for a child with autism, it's not just a car, it's their freedom.
It was a highway like no other.
Nobody really wanted it. People thought it was a waste of money.
With a rich and turbulent history.
I beg your forgiveness.
And today, with a brand new name and increased traffic, this thoroughfare is trying to change its image. The New Drive, Monday at 6 on Channel 6 News.
And at 8:24, we now have some new numbers just in the mayor's race.
We're going to take a look at those numbers and whatever else we have coming into us. Taking a look now at the mayor's race, the mayor is expected to easily win re-election for his second term. He didn't have much of a challenge from his two challengers, third that dropped out. There you see Mayor Morial with 60% of the vote, Kathleen Cresson with 29% of the vote, with just 2% of the precincts reporting.
And of course, there's only one other candidate in that race. There he is, Paul Borrello. Bauer dropped out some time ago. Borrello's out marching in a parade tonight.
That's right, the Crew de Vue parade.
Yeah. And in the council at large, there's Peggy Wilson with 37%, James Singleton 34%.
So let's see how Eddie Saper is doing now this early. 25%, and Stephen Berry, again, that's a non-candidate.
Yeah, and also William Gant Jr., 1%, and respectively with Chuck West.
In Council District E, Ellen Hazura Distance, the incumbent, has 87% against the challenger, Wayne Johnson, with 13%.
And the crime proposition, a big issue out in Lakeview, where people are voting to assess their property, to pay for more security patrols. Yes is leading 53% to no at 47%, with 5% of the precincts reporting.
That would be a $100 per year property tax for 4 years, something that a lot of neighborhoods are considering now.
And in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal race, David Marcello, the mayor's candidate, is tied with James McKay, former criminal district judge, at 40% each, with 1% reporting.
And Philip Ciascio Jr. Let's see how he's doing. Well, we'll get to that later. We're going to now talk to our political analysts, Silas Lee and Dr. Susan Howell. We were talking earlier, and some of the reporters had mentioned that it didn't seem that the challengers, especially in the council at large race or in the mayor's race, had made much of a challenge. Why even say you're going to run for mayor or run for council and then not show up and really get out and try to do as much as you can?
Well, historically, you will have someone challenge incumbents. However, what we noticed here, we had absentee opposition. And for many of these candidates, it was an opportunity for them to get a message out, probably that they could have never received any attention or focus on before. And maybe it was just an opportunity for them to challenge someone. You never know. But it was probably an opportunity for them to get a message out that probably was ignored in the past.
Well, there's not much point in challenging these popular incumbents during good times when you're going to have a chance to run in 4 more years. So why waste money up against someone who's probably going to beat you, save your money for 4 years from now?
Yeah, my question was, what new messages did we hear from the... We really didn't hear anything new. We didn't hear anything to get excited about. There was nothing stimulating.
And I think part of the reason for that is that people are generally content with this council. I thought it was interesting in your poll that all these council people had the same ratings, which means nobody stands out as being particularly bad or particularly great in a sense, so that they're all okay. And so what do you say against that?
Now, if I might ask another question. Now, the mayor said to me yesterday that, sure, it's been a dull election, but the city of New Orleans has earned the right to be dull. Why is dull good?
Dull is definitely good in this election because the voters have more confidence in local government than we've seen in 10, 12 years. They see improvements in crime, the police. They think the city's going in the right direction, and they like the incumbents. That makes for a dull election, but it's basically a good thing.
But Silas, you mentioned to me just a moment ago that it's good for incumbents to have challengers, even a weak challenge?
Well, incumbents need a challenger, basically to focus voters on their record and on their agenda. Without opposition, there's not a whole lot you can do to stimulate the interest of voters. So with a challenger, at least it allows you that opportunity. And in reference to what Norman was saying, right now when you look at 1998 and 1994, definitely we've seen a renaissance in terms of how people feel about the quality of life, leadership in the city and the direction of the city. Complete reversal. Now 75% of the voters feel that they have some or a lot of confidence in the council compared to 4 years ago. It was less than 10%. So we have a complete reverse. The same with the mayor's office, the same with the New Orleans Police Department. And that's why you see a pretty dull election.
But there has been some undercurrent of some resistance, so we'll be talking about that a little bit later.
Yeah, we are watching special election coverage, Decision 98, here on the state's first television station, WDSU. We'll be right back.
Are you getting married? Come to the Special Occasion Center's open house on February 7th and register for thousands of dollars in cash and prizes. The Special Occasion Center has it all. Call for details today. Tires for less only at Lucas Tire Super Ride Sale. 4 Super Ride 40,000 mile steel radial white walls, $99.95. That's right, 4 Super Ride tires, any size, just $99.95. Instant credit, 90 days, same as cash, only at Lucas Tire.
Late Saturday, I was at Firestone for MasterCare Car Service. Had them check the engine, suspension, brakes.
Noise going on up front.
Well, they discovered I needed a special order part that could have taken days to get here. Instead, they stayed open past closing while the tech got the same part from his car at home. Now, I can't expect this every time there, but they really went out of their way to be sure I had my car ready for the weekend.
MasterCare at Firestone. People who care about cars. For a limited time, get MasterCare Basic Brake Service on all 4 wheels, starting at $99.
It's King Cake time, and Rouse's is king. We make king cakes fresh every day with delicious gourmet cinnamon dough and your favorite sweet and tasty flavors. Visit any Rouse's or use your credit card and call our King Cake hotline. Share with family and friends. We ship anywhere in the USA with Mardi Gras throws, doubloons, the works. When it comes to king cakes, Rouse's is king.
We're Rouse's, your superstore.
If you like catching doubloons and Mardi Gras beads, then you'll love this catch. A huge shrimp platter served with a large drink for only $5.88. Piles of shrimp cooked the New Orleans way, hot and crispy. Home-style fries, hush puppies, and a large drink. It'll make your taste buds mambo. Catch our lanyard special, only $5.88 for the best shrimp platter in town. When we called it New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company, we had to make it good.
And welcome back to our election coverage here on Channel 6. Councilwoman Ellen Hazur-Distance is another incumbent whose job at City Hall appears secure tonight. We have some numbers now in that race.
And if we can look at those numbers, as you see them right there in District D, she has 87% of the vote, with Wayne Johnson's, her challenger's 13%. And voters seem convinced that Hazur, whose district includes New Orleans East, is serving her constituents well. And Richard Angelico is our man on the scene now at Hazur-Distance's headquarters. Richard, how are you?
Well, Norman, we're doing fine here. There's certainly an air of festivity here. There are balloons, and the crowd is starting to arrive, and everybody is feeling very, very confident about this race. The challenge of Wayne Johnson did not mount much of a challenge, went to 1 or 2 debates, but you really don't see much of his literature around, and he really didn't make much of a push to unseat what has been a very, very popular councilwoman. And the councilwoman is with me right now. You've had a very busy day, I understand.
Yes, definitely. Got up early this morning, went to vote, then started walking different neighborhoods, knocking on doors, riding, the whole 9 yards.
Let me ask you, what's ahead for New Orleans East? A few years ago, we'd drive by, we'd see Oakwood, we'd see Green Tree. It looked like New Orleans East literally was going to the dogs. There's been a big turnaround, including this new Holiday Inn.
Oh, definitely. As you can see from the interstate, New Orleans East is undergoing a revitalization. We have several big projects on the drawing board, Jazzland amongst them, the sale of the plaza, which should happen this month. And in other areas of the district as well, we're also pushing to really help the small businesses throughout the district. So I think all of those efforts combined should produce a real transformation of the whole district.
There's a lot that's been done in the past 4 years. What's ahead in the next 4 years for you in terms of things that need to be done here in New Orleans East?
Well, I think we have to continue to build upon the foundation that's been laid. We have to continue our crime-fighting efforts. I would like to see more community policing substations throughout the district because it is so large. I think we also have to continue to work on the blighted problem. I think the Section 8 problem has to be addressed by our federal delegation because it has a big impact on the whole city. I think also we have to continue to pursue our streets program for the city, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of those completed.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's Councilwoman Ellen Distance. She, of course, is not predicting victory yet, but if you ask any of these folks out here, they say it was a slam dunk yesterday. Norman and Susan, back to you.
A slam dunk a few weeks ago, Richie.
Probably.
All right, thank you.
All right. You know, all of the candidates for council who wind up victorious tonight will face one common problem when they return to office at City Hall to begin their new term, and that is crime. We'll have some numbers now from the Lakeview crime proposition issue. As you can see, it's winning 51 to 49%.
This is a close one, though. At one point, one of the polls suggested that only 50% of the people in that area supported this, and they only need 50% to pass this. Alec Gifford is live at a Lakeview landmark tonight, St. Dominic's Church. And Alec, this is going to be an interesting one here.
It certainly is. I think it's a bit closer than anybody suspected it might have been at this point. Let me set the scene right now. Yes, we're standing outside St. Dominic's Church on Harrison Avenue, about a block off Canal Boulevard, where St. Paul's Episcopal Church is. That's really what Lakeview is all about. Big churches like this, little shops like the Coffee and Company Cafe and other places here along the Harrison Avenue shopping strip. Crime is not really that big an issue out here. There hasn't been a murder here in 2 years. In fact, over the last reporting period, crime took a 10% drop in the Lakeview area. We're standing here with Charles Ciascio, who is one of the driving forces behind the move to create this Lakeview Crime Prevention District. And the question people keep asking is, why Lakeview? It's one of the safest areas of town.
Well, the fact is we want to make Lakeview the safest it can be. Despite the fact that the perception is that it is a safe place, there are still individuals who have been victims of crime in this neighborhood, whether it be an auto burglary, a house burglary, an armed robbery. And for those individuals, there is too much crime in Lakeview.
And so you folks want to keep it that way, and you're willing to impose a $100 per year tax on the 8,000 more or less pieces of property in this area.
That's correct. The Lakeview Civic Improvement Association was the major sponsor of the legislation creating this crime prevention district. It was passed in the legislature last year, and today is the vote by the residents of Lakeview to determine if they're going to impose the fee.
Aren't you surprised to see 51-49 at this point? I think that you folks thought it would pass much more heavily than that, didn't you not?
The figures at the moment do look a little bit closer than I had expected. However, we're only talking about 10% of the precincts. So it would depend at this point upon where those precincts were.
Okay, Charles Ciascio, thank you for being with us. We're going to throw it back to Norman and Susan at the studio, and we'll keep you posted out here as to what's going on. The mood of the lay of the land as we count the votes on the Lakeview Crime Prevention District.
All right, Alec, we'll check in with you later. Thank you.
Yeah, and this crime proposition is something that appears to be catching on. Susan and Silas, it happened in Lake Forest Estates, your neighborhood, last year, and it's being proposed in Spring Lake subdivision. It seems to be rather incongruous at a time when people are saying we feel safer about the city, yet neighborhoods who can afford it are opting to tax themselves for more protection. What's going on?
Well, I think you hit the operative term, who can't afford it, are voting. This is close. I mean, this may not pass. It's 51% with 9% in, because I think there are some people in Lakeview, you're basically asking people to vote for a tax. And there was an argument that it's not fair because it's $100 per parcel and businesses pay the same as individuals. But even though, as Alex said, there have been no murders in 2 years in Lakeview, there has been a rash of armed robberies. There have been other things that scare people that gave the impetus to this. I think that if crime continues to decline in the city the way it has been, it will take some of the steam out of this movement.
Silas, is this the thing, though, that might keep some people from going across the lake?
Probably. That's probably why you will see more initiatives like this. Depends on what happens and how crime is addressed. People want to feel like they have some control over crime, especially at reducing the opportunity for them to become a crime victim. And those who can afford it they do not mind taxing themselves to maintain a level of safety in their neighborhood and to stabilize that environment, because the perception of crime may exceed the reality, but the more insecure people may feel, the more likely they are to flee. So this is an opportunity to stabilize the neighborhood too.
And also we have to realize that property values in Lakeview are probably some of the highest in the city, and people are voting to protect property values.
Certainly. All right. Well, we'll take a break and we'll come back with some more numbers.
Don't go far. Stay tuned.
Three spectacular shows at UNO Lakefront Arena. Friday, May 8th, and 2 shows Saturday, May 9th at 3 and 8 p.m. Lord of the Dance. Live on stage. Hurry, get your reserved seat tickets right now at the Arena box office, Ticketmaster locations, or charged by phone. Lord of the Dance. A Beaver production for Channel 6 and Miller Lite.
World Gym on the West Bank is now just $19 a month. That's right, just $19 a month. World Gym on the West Bank. Improvements at the Hoover Dam by Dellery Enterprises, the best aluminum cover on the market. Features include a superior roof and wraparound clean-out gutter. Thousands of jobs, local and national.
I'm proud that Delport was picked for the project at the Hoover Dam.
By using your furnace before it is properly serviced by a technician, you may endanger your family.
Don't wait.
Call Keith's Air Conditioning and Heating.
Important notice to homeowners. The U.S. Department of HUD has made it possible for you to borrow up to $25,000 for home improvements. I'm Brad Levine with Save More Builders. At Save More Builders, families with low to high incomes can now make quality home improvements with no money down and small monthly payments. Finally, a HUD program for everyone. Let Save More fix up your home with no money down and a small monthly payment. Call 837-1163 or out of town, call toll free.
When you're in buckets of trouble, Roof Tech is on top of your needs, bringing 20 years of experience home to you. Fully bonded and insured, Roof Tech provides the entire Gulf South with reliable service and quality products such as Owens Corning. Roof Tech can install risk-free roofing for any size project with watertight warranties ranking among the best in the industry. You can depend on Roof Tech, your shelter from the storm. Call 366-9283 today for a free estimate.
As we continue our special election coverage now, let's look at the new numbers in the race for mayor of the city of New Orleans. The incumbent leading handily, 62 to 27%.
With 3% of the precincts reporting. Paul Bauer, no longer a candidate, but still on the ballot, and Paul Borrello with just 4%.
And you know, another race that has generated perhaps the most attention is the council at large. James Singleton, 37%, and Peggy Wilson, 33%.
Eddie Saper with 26%. Chuck West, another long shot candidate, and William Papagant down in the low digits.
And the incumbents are doing well tonight. District D, Roy Glapion leading handily at 87%.
In District B, Oliver Thomas leading as well, very handily, 88%.
And Councilman woman Ellen Hazard Distance, another incumbent, leading at 86 to 14%.
Now again, looking at that crime proposition, the proposition for more patrols in Lakeview for self-tax by the people in that area, tight one so far. 51% say yes to that, 49% say no.
In the race for 4th Circuit Court of Appeal, David Marcello leading at 42 to 35%.
And Philip Ciascio Jr. in this race with 23%.
In the race for traffic court judge, Robert Jones III, the mayor's candidate, 35%. Yvonne Hughes, 14%.
Several candidates in this race. Morris Reed, who ran unsuccessfully for DA 3 times, is now with just 13%.
Rosa Edwards at 11%, a traffic court prosecutor. Arthur Morrell, a lawyer, 10%. And Vernon Thomas, 5%.
Taking a look at the assessor's race in the 4th District. This was an interesting race here. A lot of mudslinging back and forth between Ronald Burke, the incumbent, and Betty Jefferson, the sister of Congressman Bill Jefferson. But Burke is far away and ahead this early in the game.
As well as Janice Deegan, the incumbent, 81%, leading her challenger at, to 19%, with 5% of the precincts reporting.
In the recorder of mortgages race, Michael McCrossan, the incumbent, looking kind of tight right now. A close race between Michael McCrossan and Desiree Charbonnet, 53 to 47, with 23% of the precincts reporting.
And as you said, Shedrick Roy is off the ballot, pulled out some time ago. In the race for Register of Conveyances, incumbent Gaspar Skiro, 73% to Marie Bookman, another mayor Morial candidate.
And in the Register of Conveyances, we have David Reed with 5%.
And the race for clerk of Civil District Court, the incumbent, Dale Atkins, 98% to Conrad Schimmel's 2%.
So those are the latest numbers that we have just coming in now to Channel 6.
And looking at another heated, disputed race tonight, that of the 4th Circuit Court of Appeal.
All 3 candidates in this one have been battling it out on television and radio. You've seen their signs along the neutral ground. Tisha Powell reports on the race that's being decided tonight by voters in Orleans Parish, but also in Plaquemines and St. Bernard.
Well, the 4th Circuit Court of Appeal tends to be somewhat of an isolated court and therefore not very much in the public's consciousness, but it is a very important court because of its impact on people's lives.
And Municipal Court Judge David Marcello wants to be part of that process. He and his opponents, Philip Ciascio Jr. and Jim McKay, are asking voters in Orleans, Plaquemines, and St. Bernard parishes for a seat on the 4th Circuit Court of Appeal. Marcello was an attorney for 25 years and a committed community servant. He's endorsed by Mayor Morial and says he has a lot to offer this position.
What I'd like to bring to it are my qualifications as a scholar, as a practicing attorney of 26 years, and as someone who's got a real connection with our community.
Jim McKay has served as a criminal court judge for 15 years. He's endorsed by the Alliance for Good Government and says integrity and experience are most important.
I think that I'm going to bring with me to that seat all the things that I learned as a child growing up in New Orleans and all the experience that I have on the criminal bench.
Philip Ciascio Jr. would like to follow in his father's footsteps by filling his position on the bench. He's a practicing attorney who believes his training in criminal and civil law puts him above the competition.
The other 2 candidates, one has been exclusively involved in the criminal practice, one has been exclusively involved in the civil practice, but neither one of them have what I possess insofar as the experience is concerned.
He says he plans to fight crime and stress family values if elected.
And I want to make a difference in this community, and this is a position that I truly believe I can make a difference in.
Tisha Powell, Channel 6 News.
Now, this 4th Circuit Court of Appeal seat has been vacant since August when Philip Ciascio Sr. retired. The winner tonight will join 11 other judges.
And we'll take a break now and continue with our special election coverage in a moment. Don't go far.
It was the best time I ever had doing it.
I've done it a lot. This was the best ever.
It was so good that we did it twice.
What are these people talking about? They've all bought a car from Mossy Oldsmobile Pontiac. Every Mossy customer receives free oil changes for 4 years, a free car detailing once a year, free shuttle service to and from the CBD, and the lowest prices available. So if you want to save money on your next car, come to Mossy Oldsmobile Pontiac.
It's a sweetheart of a deal at A1 Appliance for the whole month of February. Shop at A1 Appliance for the best deals and biggest selection. Give her an appliance from A1 and we'll give you a wonderful bouquet of flowers from Villery's Florist. At A1 Appliance, get the guaranteed lowest prices and 0% interest for 15 months. We're talking a sweetheart of a deal. Buy a new appliance and get a beautiful free bouquet for your sweetheart from Villery's. We won't tell. At A1 Appliance, we're talking big.
Toyota Corolla, now with a new design and a Consumer's Digest Automotive Best Buy recommendation. USA Today says Toyota Camry is the #1 selling car in America. And Toyota Tacoma is 4-Wheeler Magazine's 1998 Pickup Truck of the Year. Toyota, we just keep getting better every day.
This weekend, the same
victory at the Superdome. Color TVs and VCR, $79. IBM 46 computer, $299. Pentium 133 computers, $499. Color notebooks, $499. Leather jackets, $29. Cordless phones, $19. Answer machines and color IDs, $15. Levi jeans, $14. CD players, $29. Car CD players, $49. Microwaves, $49. Gold jewelry, $10 a gram. Nintendo 64, PlayStation, Kenwood, Sony, Pioneer, Sirwin, Vape. Friday noon to 10, Saturday 10 to 9, Sunday noon to 6. The Superdome.
You're watching special election coverage, Decision 98 here on WDSU Channel 6. We now have the latest numbers in the mayor's race. Taking a look at them now, the incumbent 66% to 24% from Kathleen Cresson.
As our political analysts have said tonight, this seems to be an endorsement of the way the city is going. Much better quality of life perspective for a lot of people in this town from the way it was 4 years ago.
All right, we have two people covering the election from the Morial headquarters tonight, Michael Marsh and Melanie Sanders. Melanie?
Well, Norman, people are starting to slowly show up a little bit more here tonight, but as you can see, hopefully everyone is watching the numbers here on Channel 6, but they also have a screen set up, which is right behind me on the internet, where you can get the numbers and the voters and see how many people registered Democrats, registered Republicans. Bob Dabney, who is the campaign press secretary, is here to tell us a little bit more about how this is working for people to get the numbers on the internet. How is this working?
Well, Melanie, you know, one of the great things about technology is that it's gotten us to the point where the clerk of court here, Edwin Lombard, can offer the people of New Orleans this service, and it's a wonderful service whereby on his internet address, which is www.opcso.org, okay, you can go in and you can access the election results as they come in.
And they haven't been updated
They haven't been updated yet, but hopefully they'll be updated. And the first thing that you'll get, and you can do it for all of the races, but obviously here we're going to concentrate on the mayor's race, but you can get all of the precincts, the names and the number of votes. And another thing that it does, if we can get to it here, is that it will give you a map. And the precincts will change color as the precinct is given to a candidate.
Okay, Bob Dabney, thanks for talking to us. Let's go over to Mike now, who is with Councilman Troy Carter. Mike.
We'll be talking to the councilman a little bit later, but first of all, let's talk about the mayor's next 4 years. What's in the cards? Well, the mayor says there probably won't be a whole lot of changes, but he does want to improve the school system. And when the mayor voted this morning, he was casting a ballot for his plan to promote leadership in the schools. He says official New Orleans, politicians and business people alike, have basically abandoned the school system. A lot of people going to private schools now. So he's going to draw up a blueprint to improve the schools, not so much to take control away from the school system, but he wants to improve it, and he says that's going to take some time too.
Can't be done in 6, 8, 10 months. It's more than picking a new superintendent. It's more than, quote, the board doing some different things. It's going to require accountability for learning. It's going to require a focus on the condition of public school buildings. It's going to require, I think, re-energizing teachers and principals and others, and a whole variety of things. But political leaders, not only the mayor, not only the city council, but every political leader is going to have to take a seat at the table and commit to do whatever he or she can do.
You hear the mayor sending out the challenge to members of the council. Councilman Troy Carter here. What can be done as far as he's looking at? You can't take the schools away from the schools per se, but what can council members and the mayor do?
I think what we have to do clearly is we've got to recognize that the school board is a constitutionally created entity of itself, and our position needs to be, instead of an overtake, needs to be one of how can we join resources. The mayor, the city council, the business community, the community as a whole, we all have a vested interest in making sure that our school system is working right, that it's overhauled, and what we have to do is to make sure that we all sit to the table together, pool our resources, pool our energies, and pool our talents to make it work.
Is the goal reachable in the next 4 years for the mayor?
I don't think we have the luxury for it not to. And it's bigger than the mayor. It's not about the mayor, it's about the city. To do it in the next 4 years, to do it in the next 12 months, we have to expend every bit of energy that we have, and time is of the essence, so we have to do it now.
All right, Councilman Troy Carter. Now back to you all in the studio.
All right, thank you, Michael.
All right, Michael.
Well, you know, voters in this city have been polled by both Susan Howell and Silas Lee about whether or not they want the mayor to take over control of the school system. What did they tell you?
Well, right now, they're very lukewarm towards the idea. However, I believe that once this idea picks up some momentum, we might see more support due to the fact that they have a lot of confidence in City Hall, the mayor's office, and the council, and they probably will gain more confidence in the ability of the City Hall to have some input into the management of the school system. And that was one area that did not experience any improvement in the poll, because we asked if public education has improved over the past 4 years, and the majority said gotten worse.
Yeah. Now, the mayor has proved, at least the argument is being made among the people who want him to at least not, I won't use the word take over, I'll just say, to assume an aggressive role as it relates to education. The argument they make is the mayor has done his job. He's done what he promised he would do when he became elected 4 years ago. This big reform movement that took place in the school board has just... You
mean the police?
Yeah, on the police department. Yeah. This big reform movement that took place on the school board has gone nowhere. In fact, it's taken a big nosedive. The question is...
well, I think one of the things that, as Silas brought up, we've always seen white voters more negative than black voters on the schools. Black voters were more positive, but recently we've seen a decline in black voters' evaluation of the school system. And they are the real customers, so to speak, of the public school system. And I think they would welcome the mayor's involvement. The reason I think the overall poll showed a lukewarm is that whites are dramatically against it, and blacks are, it might be a good idea. So, and also we've seen another thing that the president of the school board basically said he welcomes the mayor's involvement. Well, that I think is a signal that a legal takeover is not required, that we can have a working together where the mayor would have an incredible amount of influence and the school board would go along with that.
Something we may see in the next term.
Yeah, I think you can bank on it.
Well, he made it the hallmark of his speech in the State of the City address, and I'm quite sure he's going to make this a cornerstone for his second term. In the first administration, he talked about crime and he addressed the issue. It looks like public education will be a cornerstone here.
Okay, we'll be looking for that, and we'll take a break now.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages.
It was a highway like no other.
Nobody really wanted it. They thought it was a waste of money.
With a rich and turbulent history.
I beg your forgiveness.
And today, with a brand new name and increased traffic, this thoroughfare is trying to change its image. The New Drive, Monday at 6 on Channel 6 News. When the big story breaks, turn to experience. Turn to Louisiana's first Channel 6 News, making a difference together.
Mesha Camping is affordable and fun with a motorhome from Cajun Camping. Trade-ins and financing available. See Cajun Camping.
The strongest aluminum covers anywhere. Dellery Enterprises, residential, commercial, and industrial. We manufacture, install, and service.
By using your furnace before it is properly serviced by a technician, you may endanger your family.
Don't wait.
Call Keith's Air Conditioning and Heating.
Let Armor Roofing and Gutter install the last roof you'll ever need over your existing roof. Affordable and fire retardant. Armor Roofing and Gutter.
Tulane University Hospital and Clinic, in partnership with Tulane Medical Center, has had a commitment to providing quality health care to Louisiana and the Gulf South for more than 150 years. This tradition of health and healing, in conjunction with educating the next generation of doctors, has made Tulane known and respected throughout the world. When you choose Tulane, you choose expertise and medical innovation in every field of healthcare. It's the most educated healthcare decision you can make. For information, call our access line.
Hi, I'm Margaret Orr. As a mother, I know how tough it is to talk to kids. But imagine if your child is autistic. How would you reach them? You can call Gulf Coast Teaching Family Services. Since 1983, it's been helping children break out of the isolated world of autism. Donate your used car, boat, or RV to Gulf Coast Teaching Family Services. You get a tax deduction, but more importantly, you help a child with autism. Remember, for a child with autism, it's not just a car, it's their freedom.
And we're back once again with our live coverage of Decision 98, the election here in New Orleans.
And we're going to take a look at what Roy Glapion is doing, the councilman from District D. Got up to a shaky start, but he seems to have recovered nicely. Susan Roberts.
Good evening, Norman. Roy Glapion joins me now, and good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
How's it been going today? What have you been doing? Tell us.
It's been tough. You know, all campaigns are tough. You know, I've been walking and talking and shaking hands and trying to get reelected.
What are your numbers showing?
Well, from what I've heard from the press, that they look very, very good, but there's many more numbers to come before we can truly make a decision on a victory.
Tell us, have you heard much from your challenger, Anna P. Johnson, during this campaign? We have not heard much from her.
No, I have not heard much, and I'd prefer not to comment on what she's done.
Okay. Tell us about the drunk driving charge and what happened that night. You have said that you felt like when everything came out of the wash that you would be vindicated in this.
Well, I'm not going to talk about what happened that night. You know, you're innocent until proven guilty. I have not been to court, so I believe when I go to court, I'll be completely vindicated of those charges.
And the next 4 years, should you be reelected tonight? Tell us about that.
We've got a lot of exciting things to do. We must continue to work with our police department, particularly the veteran officers that I believe that need additional training to fight the crime that existed in the 1990s. We have a very exciting thing going on at UNO, the research park that's going to bring a lot of good jobs to New Orleans. The blighted housing problem is still there. We're walking in the right direction.
A lot of friends and supporters here tonight.
Yes.
Got a lot behind you.
My mom and my wife and all of that, yes.
Thank you very much. Councilman Roy Glapion. Norman and Susie, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Susan Roberts reporting from the Roy Glapion campaign. Looks like they're having fun out at Lakefront Airport.
Let's see if some other council at large candidates are getting confetti already. And well, let's take a look now at the latest numbers in this race. Just coming into Channel 6, Decision 98, in the Council at Large race. We've got reporters at each of these different locations. James Singleton, 37%, Eddie Saper, 29%.
And this is with 7% of the precincts reporting. And there you have incumbent Peggy Wilson, 27%, William Gant Jr., 4%.
And one more page, Chuck West with 1%. Stephen Barry dropped out. We've got Scott Simmons with the Peggy Wilson folks now, so let's go check in and see what's happening there at her campaign headquarters. Scott.
Well, as in most campaigns, Susie, when you get to election night, what you find are a lot of people huddling around the TV monitors, gauging the different numbers, knowing that not knowing which areas they come from. They tend not to get too overexcited when they see a fluctuation in the numbers in that regard. You know, what has certainly been a challenge for the Wilson campaign is dealing with a frontal assault from Mayor Mark Morial. It is perhaps no coincidence that the headquarters here is located directly across the street from Mayor Mark Morial's home. Peggy Wilson knew coming into this election that she would definitely have her work cut out for her.
I truly appreciate the backing.
Peggy Wilson has long been established as a lone voice in matters of city government, often pitted against the will of the Morial administration and the rest of the council.
I am willing to speak out when I see things that are going on that are not right.
That lone voice in the wilderness position is certainly not a position she regrets.
The thing that many of the people that I represent understand is that they need an independent voice on the city council. They need someone that they can get in touch with when nobody else will listen.
Like other candidates, Wilson has scored major endorsements and tried to explain to voters the things that are top agenda for her. She lists crime and backing the police department at the top of her list. Also building a new juvenile court facility to deal with the growing problems of youth crime. Peggy Wilson says she's looking to move on to another 4 years of doing things her way.
The biggest thing that I have to offer to the people who support me is to be their voice on the City Council. That's what I have been, and that's what I will continue to be.
From time to time, Ms. Wilson has been checking with phone calls, gauging some of the results from the people she have in the outlying areas, and certainly being patient as she awaits those numbers to come in. Of course, we'll stay here throughout the night and bring you the latest. Back to you.
Yeah, we can hear the noise in the background. Sounds like busy bees out there.
Building.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Well, we'll take a break and be back right after this.
Has the zip in your car finally run out of gas? Tired of fixing and fighting it? Volunteers of America will take it off your hands and offer you free towing. We'll even take that old truck, boat, or motorcycle, whether it's running or not, and you could get a tax deduction for your donation. Call Volunteers of America at 1-800-427-6327 and help yourself while helping over 16,000 children, families, and adults in Greater New Orleans. Call Volunteers of America at 1-800-427-6327 to donate your vehicle and get a possible tax deduction.
World Gym on the West Bank is now just $19 a month. That's right, just $19 a month. World Gym on the West Bank. Improvements at the Hoover Dam by Dellery Enterprises, the best aluminum cover on the market. Features include a superior roof and wraparound clean-out gutter. Thousands of jobs, local and national.
I'm proud that Delport was picked for the project at the Hoover Dam.
By using your furnace before it is properly serviced by a technician, you may endanger your family.
Don't wait.
Call Keith's Air Conditioning and Heating.
We're going to have just 2
Mardi Gras Ball. We've got your invitation to all the excitement.
I'm Susan Rosegian, and I love this city. Could be the history, or the art, or the climate.
All day, everywhere we went. We really got enthusiastic support, and I know the members of our organization, the AFL-CIO, are very supportive of him. We had phone banks going, we had letter writing going. Everything we got was a positive, and we think they're going to go on the polls and really vote for Eddie and bring it out to him tonight, okay?
Peter Babin, thank you very much for joining us. As I say, the candidate is here in the Fairmont Hotel. He's now in the process of getting cleaned up. He's spending a little time with his wife and son and some very, very close supporters. I was in the hallway as he was going to his suite, and the indication among the people who were closest to him, political campaign types, there were smiles all around. They felt very confident at this point, although one always does at about this time of night. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. John Margaret, back to you.
All right, thanks, George. 660 votes, which is not that many, but a pretty good chunk of votes, actually, at this time. 660 separating Eddie Saper from Peggy Wilson right now. And let's show you some numbers from the assessor's race in District 4, 61% for Betty Jefferson to Ronnie Burke's 39%, with about a quarter of the votes counted, and actually...
That's 92% over his challenger, Diane Prunty-Williams, 8%.
In Council District D, Ellen Hazur Distance, 87%. Wayne Johnson, 13%, with 12% of precincts reporting.
There's the crime proposition in Lakeview. Voters are deciding whether or not to tax themselves to receive increased security patrols. Yes, 54%. No, 46%.
And in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal race, James McKay now on top, 44%. David Marcello, 34%, with 27% of the precincts reporting.
In the traffic court judge race, we have Robert Jones III, a traffic court prosecutor currently with 34%. Yvonne Hughes went too quickly for me to remember.
Assessor, 4th Municipal District, Betty Jefferson now leading the incumbent, 61% to 39%.
With 26% of the precincts reporting in that one. In the assessor's race in the 6th District, we have Janice Deegan with 80% over her challenger, Robert Maloney, with 20%. In the Recorder of Mortgages race, Desiree Charbonnet, 52%, tight one, with the incumbent Michael McCrossan, 48%.
And in the Register of Conveyances contest, the incumbent Gasper Skiro, 52% to 40% for Marie Bookman. This one seems to be closing up.
And in the clerk's race, Civil District Court, Dale Atkins, the incumbent with 96% over the challenger with just 4%. Okay, now earlier we saw Susan Roberts at Councilman Glapion's office, and she asked him about the DWI charge. A question for our analyst tonight: why didn't the DWI charge hurt him more?
Well, obviously what we saw with Councilman Glapion, he was able to neutralize the impact of that DWI charge. He came out the next day and said, look, this is what happened. I apologize to my friends and supporters, and I look forward to resolving this matter in the future. Plus, he did not have a negative perception by voters to begin with. So those factors helped to neutralize the impact, and it was a one-time incident, too.
Also, to vote against him, you had to vote for a Republican. His opponent is a Republican in an overwhelmingly Democratic district.
Now, we've heard a lot of politicians, when they're looking down the road, 4 years down the road, say, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We heard Jim Singleton. He's in his last term. Peggy Wilson's in her last term, and the mayor, for all practical intents and purposes, unless something changes, is in his last term. Singleton says he's got a lot of options. What options do these candidates really have?
Well, the ones that are lawyers can be lawyers. You can work for university. You can go into business, I mean, and use your connections in City Hall. They have options to run for other offices. I mean, that's, most of them, I would assume, are going to attempt to run for something else. But I think what we're seeing here is the effects of term limits. Term limits enable voters to feel, I think, better about their government because they get a complete change just about every 8 years. And so they feel like they've done something by wiping the slate clean. And then it's not, since those incumbents are only in there for 8 years, they don't have the time to become long-term, you know, semi-corrupted incumbents the way we saw in that long-term council that we got rid of 4 years ago.
Well, it stops the possibility of building a political dynasty, essentially. And with term limits, too, apparently voters feel that, okay, the current core council members we have, let's keep them in right now because we're satisfied with them. And in 4 more years, we'll have a new core of council members, and we will see what happens from then. However, with the current council members, some of them can decide to sit out and maybe come back. They're still relatively young. Keep in mind, we had the youngest group of elected officials to come into office in 1994. They were primarily under the age of 40, except with about 2 or 3. So that means they have a lot of political life left in them.
And we'll see what happens in politics in this city if they continue to lead us.
All right, we've got a lot of life left in this broadcast, this special election coverage, and we'll continue that in a moment.
As you may recall, our visitor from the future is frantically trying to retrieve his phone because Earth isn't ready for such advanced technology.
With all of the great features already included, you can afford to use PrimeCo every day. And right now, choose from one of 5 new everyday low-rate plans, like 300 minutes of virtually crystal clear digital PCS for only $49.99 a month. Before long, everyone on the planet will own a PrimeCo phone.
Call 1-800-PrimeCo.
This weekend at the Superdome, the sale of the century. Color TVs and VCRs, $79. Pentium 133 computers, $4.99. Hoover vacuums, $19. Detachable face car stereos, $19. 200-watt car amps and kickers, $29. Car CD players, $49. Motorola pagers, $19. Nike, Reebok, Fila, more shoes, $19. Levi jeans, $14. Calvin Klein and Guess jeans, $29. Leather jackets, $29. Even Mardi Gras beads. Friday noon to 10, Saturday 10 to 8, Sunday noon to 6. The Superdome.
On this station through the years you've heard 3 tones ring out. They have a special meaning, so here's what it's all about. NBC, comedy genius takes center stage. NBC, comedy's got a new golden age. Fun draws nigh, I don't lie.
Hey, buddy.
To prove it, I'll sing real high. Brother Peacock spreads her wings. See her modern classics. Brand new comic queens and kings. You'll always see. Must see TV. Don't touch that dial. We'll make you smile on NBC.
back as we continue our special election coverage. Decision 98. The polls have been closed now for about an hour and 12 minutes. Yes, and the numbers are beginning to increase, pick up the pace. Let's look at them now and get the latest on the crime proposition issue out in Lakeview. And that's going to be nip and tuck all night, 55% to 45%.
Alec Gifford is out there talking to the main supporter of this proposition. Let's join Alec Gifford now in Lakeview. Alec.
Hello again, Susan and Norman. We're out in Lakeview, standing here on the steps of St. Dominic's Church on Harrison Avenue, just off Canal Boulevard. You know, the fact of the matter is that we're trying this crime prevention district in Lakeview, one of the safest areas of New Orleans, where crime has dropped 10% over the past reporting period. So a lot of people are saying, why have a crime prevention district in Lakeview when there's not a lot of crime to prevent anyway? Why are the people out here willing to do what they're proposing to do, and that is to tax each piece of property in this district $100 a year to pay for additional NOPD officers on the streets out here? Why Lakeview, one of the most peaceful areas of town? Well, we put together a little story here to kind of show you what it's all about. So let's take a look. This is a New Orleans murder scene, but not in Lakeview. There hasn't been a murder in Lakeview in 2 years. The Lakeview neighborhood, which stretches from City Park to the Jefferson Parish line, is noted for its big churches and little businesses. Definitely not for high crime. This is a typical Lakeview street scene. Big churches, little shops, a quiet kind of a place. Hardly a place where people live in fear. Lakeview lawyer Charles Ciascio headed up the formation of the Lakeview Crime Prevention District, created by the legislature to collect a $100 a year property tax to put more officers in one of the safest areas of town. Crime. Why are you doing this?
Well, we want it to be the safest place it can be. And we feel that this is the next step to take to get to that point.
The extra officers would come from the 3rd District Station along Bayou St. John, headed by this woman, veteran police captain Linda Buschek, who says there'll be excellent police protection no matter what the voters say.
But we're still going to be here. You know, we're going to still be providing police service to Lakeview, whether the tax passes or not.
It is the topic of conversation at the Coffee and Company Cafe on Harrison Avenue. This customer just bought a home in Lakeview.
Lakeview is safe. There's still some problems that need to be worked out. And I think with this proposal, I think those problems could be worked out.
So if it works out in Lakeview, it could be tried by other peaceful areas of New Orleans, trying to keep crime out of their Camelots. This will be the second neighborhood to try this. It was a little small neighborhood in New Orleans, the Lake Forest area, where about 300 homes are involved. There are 8,000 involved here. And in the Lake Forest area, they voted to give themselves a $350 a year assessment. And what they used that money for was to put additional privately employed security guards in the neighborhood. They're not doing that here in Lakeview. The price is much lower. It's $100 a year. And it will be NOPD officers who will be on the streets here if this proposition passes. As it is right now, the last time we checked, it was 55 to 45 in favor. It doesn't appear to be a lot of opposition out here. If you look up and down the streets, you'll see vote yes signs everywhere. In fact, we see thousands of them. I've seen exactly 2 that say vote no, although there is some opposition, and it shows up in the count, 55 to 45%. So we'll see how it turns out here in Lakeview, and then we'll give you those results as we get them. During the course of the evening, we'll be talking again later with Charles Ciascio, the man behind this movement. Now let's get back to Susan and Norman at the main studio.
Alec, a point of clarification for you.
All right.
These would be NOPD officers on
Yes.
detail patrols, right? Not stealing officers from other parts of the city, for
No,
instance.
that's correct. The money would be used to finance extra police officers from the NOPD to work in the 3rd District to get them more on the streets here. It is not to bring in private security guards. It's not to steal people from the downtown development district or anything like that. These will be additional police officers, and Chief Pennington has agreed in advance that he will make them available if the voters say yes, they want that extra $100 a year property tax. 8,000 pieces of property here in Lakeview, a huge part of town compared to the Lake Forest area where they did this a couple of years ago.
And also compared to the Spring Lake subdivision, where they are now planning to bring similar legislation to Baton Rouge this summer.
Yeah, Norman, this could be the wave of the future in law enforcement. That's what Ciascio tells me. There's a neighborhood in Old Metairie that's taking a look at this to see how it turns out. It could be, as people worry about crime, that they're willing to pay a little bit extra for extra police protection, provided they know they're really getting police protection, and there is no way that anybody else can touch that money. It doesn't go to the general city treasury. It can't be used in any other neighborhood. Can't fix sewers with it. Can't kill mosquitoes with it. only to hire additional police officers on the NOPD to operate in these neighborhoods.
Which would then also give some extra money to the NOPD coffers, right?
Yes, for this purpose, though. Only for this purpose, you know. Not to buy uniforms, not to buy bulletproof vests, not to put gas in cars, to get extra police officers on the street. 8,000 pieces of property, $100 a pop.
All right.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how other people react to this, where perhaps the people cannot afford this kind of police protection, see what kind of social ramifications transpire as a result of this. So it's something I'm sure we'll hear a lot about in the coming months.
And we will be staying with all the numbers, so stay with us. We'll be right back as our Channel 6 Decision 98 election coverage continues.
It was a highway like no other.
Nobody really wanted it. They thought it was a waste of money.
With a rich and turbulent history.
I beg your forgiveness.
And today, with a brand new name and increased traffic, this thoroughfare is trying to change its image. The New Drive, Monday at 6 on Channel 6 News.
We're going to have just 2 guys on the bottle. We'll be able to do that, right?
What does it take to put together a Mardi Gras ball? We've got your invitation to all the excitement.
I'm Susan Rosejan, and I love this city. Could be the history, or the art, or the climate. But every time you turn around, you meet someone fascinating and see something new. Come with me, and I'll show you. It's Positively New Orleans, Monday on Channel 6 News at 6.
When you need to know now, turn to Super Doppler 6000 and the Channel 6 Storm Team, making a difference together.
Corolla, now with a new design and a Consumer's Digest Automotive Best Buy recommendation. USA Today says Toyota Camry is the #1 selling car in America. And Toyota Tacoma is 4-Wheeler Magazine's 1998 Pickup Truck of the Year. Toyota, we just keep getting better every day.
When you're in buckets of trouble, Roof Tech is on top of your needs, bringing 20 years of experience home to you. Fully bonded and insured, Roof Tech provides the entire Gulf South with reliable service and quality products such as Owens Corning. Roof Tech can install risk-free roofing for any size project with watertight warranty.
Huge. Running for the state Supreme Court, various candidates for city judge. And by the way, he did this for black as well as white candidates. Eddie Saper, you know, a white candidate, when he could have just as easily gone out and tried to find a second black candidate to run with Jim Singleton. Instead, he picked up a white candidate to support. So I think it's just in his nature. He has thrown down that gauntlet time and time again, and then he has picked it up himself and said, we're going to do it. As I mentioned earlier tonight, he told Eddie Saper's forces just a few days ago, you guys have brought it close. I'm going to bring it in from here, and I think he has. And Eddie Saper's people were all over today, maybe 15 of them on different intersections, waving signs all day long, from early in the morning until after 5 o'clock. That's true, and I don't mean to...
Going through your head what they mean, where they may be coming from, things like that.
This is not the first time we've been through this, and we know that it's not over until it's over. No matter what the numbers are in the process, it's the numbers at the end that count, and that's what we're waiting for.
Talk about campaign strategy with me for a moment, and what has been the most prominent discussed item of your agenda is the single shot method. Any regrets in going that way?
No, it's the only way that I could win. I have to get my votes and get them out and get them to single shoot, and that's the way that I can win. And it's just about the only way that I can win because of the numbers in this in the city.
You know, we talked a few short moments ago about how this was a different election from a District A seat that you held for 2 terms as opposed to an at-large, and how you appeared to poll a little better with African Americans than in past races. Could you share some thoughts with that?
Well, what some people don't understand is that the big job of a councilman is to help people. So when you're a citywide councilman, you help people from all over the city, and we have spent a lot of time in our office trying to respond to people and help them and do help them get the opportunities that they're entitled to.
Talking about campaign challenges, ironically, we're set up across the street from Mayor Morial's home. Was that a little bit of a chuckle for you when you looked at that opportunity?
Well, when the place was available, when we found out it was available, I didn't know what the address was, and my campaign manager called and said somebody's, offered some space, and I said, go ahead and take it. I came by and looked at it, and then all of a sudden I realized it was across the street from his house, and it's interesting.
You don't have any regrets, though?
Oh, of course not.
Thank you very much, Peggy Wilson. That's the latest from the campaign headquarters. Back to you, Norman and Susie.
Scott, 1 second. Don't let Miss Wilson get away. We want to tell you that it's with 31% of the precincts reporting, with City Park and Mid-City being those precincts. Those are the numbers that we had that showed her slightly behind Eddie Saper. 31% of the precincts reporting.
31% of the precincts reporting. The numbers were 42, 29, 26, Susie?
Yes, that's correct. And with City Park and Mid-City in, Lakeview and Uptown still not in.
Those are the numbers from City Park and Lakeview, okay? Thanks a lot. There you go.
All right, we'll see how concerned she might be later in the evening. Thank you, Scott.
Definitely, as we expected, the heat being generated in that was coming from that race all along, and it looks like it's going to be a horse race right down to the wire. Heath Allen is standing by now at the other incumbent's headquarters, Jim Singleton. Heath Allen, what's going on over at the Singleton headquarters?
Well, Norman, it's kind of a different story here at the Jim Singleton campaign headquarters. You would expect, you would not expect, I guess, that Jim Singleton runs so far in front of the rest of the candidates in this field. It's a horse race for the second and third spots, but Ken Carter, you've got to be surprised, even as well as Jim has run this race, that he's running so far out in front.
I'm pleasantly surprised and very grateful to the voters for having recognized the job that Jim Singleton has done over the years, and to show the confidence in him to do a better job over the next 4 years. And he's indicated that during the campaign, that he's prepared. He's up to the task. He loves his job. He's ready to bring the city together. We've talked about that for years and years, but Jim is the kind of leader who can really do that. He recognizes the problems that we have in our city relative to race, and he says he can do something about it. He has done it in the past, and he'll continue, because we need everybody working together to solve the problems in the city of New Orleans. Jim Singleton's the kind of leader in that council can do just that.
Boy, the campaign's never over even when the polls are closed. Let's talk about some of the number breakdown here. We expected Jim Singleton to get a lot of the black vote, but he got an enormous amount of the white vote that was cast today.
Simply, people are responding to what Jim has done in the community. When he became councilman at large, if you recall, 4 years ago, he said, look, now I am the representative of all the people, black and white, Asian, Hispanic, whomever, and I'm going to represent them. And the numbers tonight indicate that the people have responded, that Jim Singleton has kept his promise. He represents everyone. He's going to continue to do that over the next 4 years.
A lot of mudslinging in this race, but it seems like Jim Singleton's been able to take the high road, stay out of all of that.
Just the kind of man he is. So he gets right to the point, gets to the issues. Let's solve the problems. He doesn't have time for bickering. You see him on television twice a month at council meetings. He cuts right to the chase and said, let's get the job done and move on.
Let's cut to the chase on this. Do you know who put out the little flyer with Peggy and Eddie Saper's picture together as a team?
I can tell you who did not do it. Jim Singleton didn't do it, but somebody did it.
All right, running very well, way out in front. Jim Singleton is in this race, of course. Peggy Wilson, Eddie Saper, neck and neck at this point in second place. So we'll give it back to the set, and the mood is good here with Jim Singleton's people. Norman, Susan?
All right, Heath. Well, the mood may not be so good with Peggy Wilson tonight. We may be looking at an upset in this race. We've got some new numbers.
And the numbers in the council at large race is 42% Jim Singleton and Eddie Saper 29%, with 38% of the precincts reporting. Let's see where Peggy Wilson is, if we can, at this moment. We just talked to her. She did seem to be concerned. She's at 26%, trailing Saper by 29%.
Now, we've got Ken Jones at Eddie Saper's campaign headquarters tonight. Let's go to him now. Ken?
So it's been a big difference from the last time we talked to you. The place is filling up. And with me now, I get your media consultant, Bill Allerton. Seems like Eddie Saper is winning in places tonight that are traditionally Peggy Wilson area. What's going on with that?
We've just had a tremendous response to Judge Saper's message of building coalitions, building bridges, bringing our community together, putting the politics of division behind, and the community has responded.
Right. He's getting some of the black vote, getting a lot of the white vote, which is important for his election in this, huh?
Again, there's just been a tremendous response. White community, black community, uptown, downtown. We just had a tremendous response to that message of trying to pull the community together.
with, I believe, 40 or 42% of the precincts being counted at this point. At 50%, do we figure we can call this if Eddie pulls away, as he's doing right now?
Well, obviously, as we get more precinct returns in, we'll be in a better position to make some projections. I don't know that we've seen enough at this point to comfortably call the race, but we have a lead right now. We feel very comfortable that that lead's going to continue to expand.
When can we expect them downstairs here?
Oh, hopefully we'll hear from them shortly.
All right. Well, we'll thank you very much, Bill Allerton. Let's give it back to you in a set. Susan and Norman.
All right, Ken Jones at Eddie Saper's headquarters tonight.
Okay, the votes in as far as Mid-City is concerned, and Algiers and Uptown are still out, and those are traditional Peggy Wilson strongholds. What do you think?
Well, it looks very close. I think we've seen the vagaries of a low turnout election here, that you really can't tell what was going to happen because it depends on each candidate's ability to mobilize and turn out their particular vote. It also shows the weakness of polls. All the pre-election polls showed him, Wilson, with a comfortable lead over Eddie Saper, and now it's neck and neck. But it does look from the map that Uptown is out, which is a Peggy Wilson stronghold. Most of Lakeview is out, and Algiers is out. But also New Orleans East is out, which would be inclined to be for Saper.
Any chance we could be looking at a runoff here?
We never know. I mean, so many areas are out right now. We don't know how many people engaged in single shooting. A lot of questions need to be answered, and that will happen in the next few minutes. However, what's critical here is that we know Jim Singleton is in, and the battle for the past few weeks was for that #2 spot. And Eddie Saper had to erode some of Peggy Wilson's black support and sway some of the undecideds. We had a big undecided up until Wednesday, really, in terms of where the votes would go. So apparently he was able to put some of those pieces together, but we still have a ways to go here.
Yeah, there's virtually no chance of a runoff because both Wilson and Saper would have to be below 25% to produce a runoff. It looks like one of them is going to be above 25%.
So does that mean that the Morial machine got really busy today?
They must have launched a stealth campaign today.
Not just today, for the past couple of days.
Or maybe the last 3 or 4 days.
Right.
They certainly did something. If this materializes the way it looks based on 1/3 of the vote.
Well, what might Peggy Wilson have done wrong in this?
Well, we don't know what she did wrong. With so many things that maybe didn't work in her favor, and we still cannot pronounce her dead yet. It's still early, and we have to see exactly what happens once we cross that 50% of the precincts reporting. Then we can have a better idea.
Right now we have just 48% of the precincts reporting, Silas, very close, and here are the new numbers.
Yeah. Saper apparently has increased his lead. He's trailing the incumbent now only by 7 percentage points. And, of course, he's increased his lead over the incumbent Peggy Wilson by 5 percentage points. So he seems to be stretching out with 48% of the precincts reporting.
What kind of council do we see shaping up, if we can project a little bit here? What kind of council would we have with Eddie Saper and Jim Singleton?
A Morial-friendly council. Well, definitely they were supportive of the mayor's agenda before. Now you probably will not have that voice of opposition as loud as you did in the past if this materializes. And with the support of the mayor helping Eddie Saper if he wins, he will have a very strong working relationship, stronger than before, and definitely, like I said, that voice of opposition might be missing.
Now, healthy or unhealthy, politically, governmentally?
Well, I think for voters it depends on how you feel about Morial, but it can be very healthy because we only have 4 more years with this mayor and these council people, and so that's not a lot of time to make a lot of improvements in the city. So if this gives the mayor a chance to initiate bold policy initiatives, if they can do things quickly and decisively, it could be a good thing.
Now, Peggy Wilson has been consistent in scrutinizing the mayor's budget and nailing the police chief in these council hearings and insisting that he and the CAO, Marlon Gusman, really provide the nuts and bolts of these budgets. Are we going to have that kind of scrutiny on the council?
I'm quite sure we'll continue to have that type of scrutiny. Voters are crying out for accountability. That's what they said they wanted, and apparently they feel that's what they are receiving right now in the leadership from City Hall. So we will continue to see that scrutiny and that questioning on all issues.
Without Peggy Wilson?
Even without Peggy Wilson.
Well, I don't know what happened to sort of gloss over the chasm between the mayor and the dean of the council, Jim Singleton. But remember, they were at loggerheads for a good while up until a few months ago in terms of what was the best approach to getting the police a raise, right. What's the best approach to getting improvements at the airport, and what the best approach to spending the city budget is. So maybe Jim Singleton now becomes the vocal voice of opposition.
And don't you think also, Susan and Silas, that it seemed toward the end that Singleton and Wilson grew closer together?
Yes, they did. Well, they forged a team to a large extent. And Peggy Wilson needed the support of Jim Singleton voters in order to win. So that's why the team was probably more critical to her than to him, because he was able to constantly maintain a comfortable level of support with white voters while holding on and expanding on his black voter support base.
I think Jim Singleton has sort of a reputation as the budget expert on the council, and that helps him quite a bit.
It also apparently appears that his strategy, Susan, to cast a vote for Jim Singleton first worked for him. It worked. In fact, he had the same strategy that Peggy had.
Yes.
And
save yourself first.
Yes, save yourself first, and worry about the second choice if you should choose to. And it apparently worked in his case.
We shall see. And we will be looking at more numbers and have more analysis with Silas Lee and Susan Howell when we come back.
Stay tuned.
Has the zip in your car finally run out of gas? Tired of fixing and fighting it?
Got that percentage that she expected, but until you look at the turnout figures in both communities and look at all the other factors, you don't know for sure. But it was basically the numbers that the polls said that she was going to get.
Well, what percentage is that? She needs at least 10% of the black vote to win.
I think when you look at the numbers, she's going to be around that area. It's going to be around 10 or 15% is what she actually got. But you have to also look at all of the turnout factors. So the turnout factors may have been different in the black and white community than people expected. So until you get all the results in and you look at the turnout factors, you don't really know all of the final analysis.
Live for the remanufactured engine.
We've supported her every time she's been on the council, for the district council, for the councilman at large, and we continue to.
Most of the night as they watch the numbers here come in, we have Eddie Saper's brother, Frank Saper, with us this evening. And you said earlier you're frankly surprised by these numbers.
Yes, I am. We knew it would be tight, but they're coming in the way we want them.
You said you were emotional earlier, and you really are.
I am, yeah.
And this has been kind of a tough campaign, and in the beginning the numbers were at least the polls were saying that your brother Eddie would have a rough time beating Mrs. Wilson, but so far it looks like it's going your way.
Yes, it's going our way.
Thirds voted. We won, and get your home remodeled. Eddie Saper with a 4 percentage point lead, almost 4,000 votes over Peggy Wilson at this point.
And now we have moved up over half the vote is in, 53% of the vote, so we can tell something by this time. Mark Morial with 78%. Clancy, this is way above what anybody thought, everybody thought he would do.
Go ahead and hear that for a second.
Looking good. Our guy just got back in the hotel because he was in the Lower Coast, Algiers, getting the last vote that he could possibly get. He's upstairs in the suite taking a shower because I don't think after 16 hours of campaigning you'd like to have him come down here like that. We are cautiously optimistic. We are not ready.
Okay, James Singleton with 43%, Eddie Saper 29% with 54% of the precincts reporting.
And Peggy Wilson now at 25%, and Chuck West 1%. Steve Barry's not even on the canvas at this point.
Now these are some easy ones for the incumbents. Roy Glapion handily defeating Anna Johnson at this point with 52% of the precincts reporting.
In District B, Oliver Thomas, the incumbent, walking away with it 90% to 10%, with 73% of the precincts reporting.
District E, Ellen Hazur Distance, again the incumbent, defeating Wayne Johnson at this point, though this one only has 26% of the precincts reporting.
Crime proposition still seems to be leading, 55 to 45% with 83. Is that 83 or 63?
63%.
63 or 83, I can't tell. I'm wearing glasses and I still can't see.
Okay, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, David Marcello, the mayor's candidate, with 45% right now, James McKay III, 36%, and Philip Ciascio Jr., just 19%.
And the next race is the traffic court judge race, Division B, with Robert Jones, another Mark Morial candidate, leading now 34% to Yvonne Hughes' 17%, with 58% of the precincts reporting. Morris Reed trailing 16%.
Rosa Edwards just 10%, and a couple more candidates in this, not even in the double digits.
And the next race we see on the screen, we're still finishing up traffic court. That's Vernon Thomas with 5%.
Now this is a very interesting one. This could be an incredible upset. Betty Jefferson, sister of Congressman Bill Jefferson, former school board member, with 91% over the incumbent assessor in the 4th District, Ronald Burke, who has just 9% now, with about 40% of the precincts reporting.
No one expected it to be that lopsided. Thought it would be a tight race, but not that lopsided. The incumbent in the 6th Municipal District Assessor race, Janice Deegan, 85%, doing well with 77% of the precincts reporting.
Continuing now with the recorder of mortgages. Look at this. Might be another upset here. We've got Desiree Charbonnet, who mounted a very tough campaign, especially toward the end, with 53%, while the incumbent, Michael McCrossan, just under 50.
Yeah, it's interesting that Mike McCrossan is the mayor's candidate. Morial is backing McCrossan, but Charbonnet's beating him anyway.
Look at this here, too. Another close race right now. We've got Gasper Skiro, the incumbent in the Register of Conveyances office, with 50%. Marie Bookman, the mayor's candidate, 42%.
And David Reed bringing up the rear at 8%, with 58% of the precincts reporting. Clerk of Civil District Court, Dale Atkins, the incumbent, winning here with 58% of the precincts reporting. She has 88%. It's interesting dynamics in these races. You have a bunch of women. Who are challenging old-line politicians who've been in office for a long time, and it seems that the women might wind up being elected. Perhaps because of the mayor's endorsement, perhaps because I don't know, they've stimulated the interest and the imagination of the voters.
But one woman who may be in trouble tonight is Peggy Wilson. Let's go back to Scott Simmons, who's live at Peggy Wilson's campaign headquarters. Scott.
Well, the mood is somewhat solemn here, but not completely. They're watching the monitors, watching the polls come in, knowing that this thing could swing back and forth depending on which precincts are being reported from which areas. Keep in mind, she is certainly very strong in what are considered the white communities, certainly the Lakeview area, so they were certainly looking for a big support from that number. Remember, in this campaign, unlike the last one, when she first ran, she was a very strong single-shot proponent, vote for one. That was the cry we heard this year, but also we heard another cry, if you will, that if you don't vote for one and you must vote for two, Wilson Singleton, certainly that's a consideration that she was hoping to perhaps increase her share in the African-American vote, certainly hoping that there would be those people who would certainly consider voting for the two of them. There was a great deal of controversy, certainly we spoke about earlier when the flyers went out suggesting that it would be okay to vote for Wilson Sapir. Ms. Wilson certainly did not engage in that, nor did she support it. She spoke out seriously against that. Also talking about just Peggy Wilson's stance on the council, certainly as being the lone voice. There were several instances where she aligned with Jim Singleton on many budget matters, scrutinizing the budget on many instances, hoping to show that she does mean business. This is not personal, but certainly one of the biggest hindrances in this campaign has to be the fact that Mayor Morial stepped out so very early and so very strongly against her, if you will. If you remember in the opening press conference, or rather announcements, when he said he was running for office, that he wanted to see the sensational 6 return to office, very clearly stating 6, not 7, counting Wilson. So she had that to battle. Not only two candidates in Singleton and Sapir, but a mayor who has seemed very determined to see that she does not return to office. The mood here again is guarded. They're watching the polls, keeping an open mind, if you will, knowing that those last 50 or 45% or so can very easily make the difference. 5% is still a very small margin. Back to you.
And also, Scott, Lakeview, those precincts in Lakeview and in Algiers are not yet in, and they are traditional Wilson strongholds.
Exactly, Susie. Those could be the very areas that could swing the vote the other way. Here they know that, and that's what they're looking to see.
Yeah, on the other hand, New Orleans East is still out, is it not? So that could also bode well for Eddie Saper. It could keep him on top. Certainly, I mean, to be honest, this would be an upset if Saper were to win, because we did not expect him to.
So it's an interesting election, and we're going to take a break and be back after this.
When day turns to night, New Orleans turns to news. And for 50 years, they've turned...
With that, because if you look at 94, which one would you rather have? And it's clear.
Recruitment, 100 new police recruits graduated just this past week. What's the goal for the next 4 years in terms of recruits? What do you believe will be full manpower for this?
You know, we've talked in terms of 1,700, and that's what the mayor has promised is going to be on the streets, and that was what the plan was with Chief Benton. But I think long term we'll go above the 1,700. I hope that we get to a much larger number. But these new, we graduated 99 on Friday. Tomorrow, Sunday, they go on the streets. These are highly motivated, very sharp, brand new police officers, and they can't wait to show New Orleans what they can do. And as we continue to come up to the 1,700, I think the people in New Orleans are going to see tremendous quality of life, and public safety issues are going to be outstanding. And I'm very excited about it. Look at all the building permits and construction that's going on in New Orleans. You don't invest like that in a city that's going down the tube. So the signal is very clear that with quality of life comes construction and the remodeling of a city. So this is an exciting time, and I think that the next 4 years are going to be fantastic.
There's only, it appears, one person in town, one political type who's more popular than mayor, and that's Chief Richard Pennington.
Yeah.
A lot of people have...
He is also one of Mayor Morial's candidates, followed by Yvonne Hughes with 17%, Morris Reed 16%, and Rosa Edwards 10%.
In the civil court clerk race, 48% of the votes are in. Dale Atkins is way out in front, the incumbent, with 88% of the vote. And Conrad Schimmel is his second place.
However, it's getting a little tighter, though. Betty Jefferson is leading against the incumbent Ronald Burke for the 4th District Assessor. Betty Jefferson leading with 54% over Ronald Burke's 46%.
In the assessor's 6th district race, 65% of the vote in. We are now declaring Janice Deegan, the incumbent, the winner. She has 85%
tonight. So let's get the latest numbers that we have here into Channel 6. We have James Singleton, the incumbent, with 43%. Eddie Saper trying to get back onto the council with 29%, and then Peggy Wilson with...
Well, let's see where she is. She had 26%, 25% the last time we looked. Now with 58% of the precincts reporting, let's see where she happens to be at this point. She's still holding at 25%.
But as we've talked about tonight, there are certain precincts that have not yet reported, and these are precincts that could shift the election by at least 5 percentage points or so. We're doing something with the internet tonight. We're taking a look at where these different precincts are and which ones have come in. Silas, what have you found in this?
Well, right now, we're still waiting on Algiers and parts of Lakeview to come in. So as we wait on these returns, this will determine whether or not Peggy Wilson remains in or out of office and what impact it will have on the candidacy of Eddie Saper.
So what can you show us here? Which ones are still vacant on the map? Lakeview?
Right here is Algiers, and right in this area, Lakeview and New Orleans East. So right now, based on what is out, this election is still up in the air.
Which way should New Orleans East go? Which way is the prediction on that?
Well, Singleton and Saper with some pockets of support for Wilson. However, it depends on turnout. So that's what makes it sort of a up in the air case right now.
And now with 85, is that 85%?
85.
Yeah, 85%. And we're almost there. 43%, 30%. Is that what? It's 65. Okay. 43% and Saper's 30%. Peggy Wilson still holding at 25%, and that is with 65% of the precincts reporting, but it's still tight, and Saper is really putting up a fight tonight, is he not?
Well, this is the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And certainly, if Eddie Saper wins, you can imagine how much more the political capital of Mayor Morial will increase, along with everyone who supported Eddie Saper. And as it stands right now, the mayor is overall winning in terms of the field of candidates that he has endorsed.
So this may go a long way towards whatever the mayor decides to do, not only with his
education,
his
third term
plans for the education, but
any initiative.
Yes, third term.
The one council-at-large candidate tonight who can breathe easy is Councilman Jim Singleton. We've got Heath Allen at Councilman Singleton's headquarters tonight, where Singleton has just joined the group. So let's go to Heath.
And we are just moments away now. Jim Singleton has taken the podium and is going to give what we obviously assume is going to be a victory speech. He's been running so far in front all evening long. He's gotten most of the black vote. He's gotten a huge amount of white vote, and it looks like he's a shoe-in as the #1 and the front runner, while Peggy Wilson and Eddie Saper fight it out for second place. So let's go ahead and go to the podium. We'll hear from Jim Singleton. He's obviously waiting for a cue before he begins his remarks. A few people are trying to get a few pictures while he is at the podium. He's joined by Oliver Thomas, who has, of course, run well out in front in his race, too. They are both winners tonight.
Good evening. Now, look, I'm very happy. I'm elated. Now, and all these people here, good evening. It's been a long, long day. First of all, let me thank God for the opportunity that he has provided me to stand here today. And let me thank my family, secondly, Shirley, Jimmy, Patricia, Jennifer, Destiny, and Kelsey. And next, Doug Evans, who has put all of this together for the 6th time for me. And I don't know what Jay, Helen, Sarah, Chanel is somewhere, he's sitting out here, and Leroy, the people who have to put up with me on a day-by-day basis. I want to thank all of them. I want to thank Councilman Thomas in particular and his family. That's my second son and Lego, and I see that his mother and father here. And Ken, I didn't forget you because he's been with me there every day. When you have people like this that close to you, then it makes this much easier. Tonight is a tremendous night for me for a number of reasons. I think because of the people that have been involved, and there's several people, and I know I'm going to miss somebody, so I'm not going to try to call all of them. But there's one person in particular I need to single out, and that's Eric Johnson from the Business Council, the past president, because of the things that he has done in this campaign. Now, I think it's the first time in his life that he ever got involved in something like this. And I want to thank all of you, the thousands and thousands of voters in this community who have showed a tremendous amount of confidence in me. Tonight's victory, I guess, is a kind of a humbling experience for me for a number of reasons. But I've spent 20 years trying to get to this night. And basically what has happened tonight, that when you look across this city, the message I've been trying to get out for 20 years finally has, I guess, stuck home. And I guess it's one thing to say, I've always expected the black vote. That's something I've always gotten. But I've tried to go and broaden this perspective out, and I think it has worked because of the tremendous white support that I've gotten in this community. I had a speech that I wanted to make tonight, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's the thing I want to get over to you tonight. The thing I want to get over to all of you is a very warm thank you, thank you, thank you for the support that I'm getting from you.
Anytime.
I talked about the need for...
All right, that's Councilman Jim Singleton, who is obviously the front runner in the councilman-at-large race. He is thanking his supporters. He said he had a prepared speech, but he was going to forego that. He was glad he was able to cross the racial lines. He was expecting black support, but he was glad for the strong, strong white support. So he's going to continue his remarks to his supporters, and we're going to give it back to you.
All right. Peace. He sounded very ebullient, and he did say something that I think is extremely significant, and that is he was able to broaden his base.
Yes.
He was very concerned at the outset of the race, especially in terms of the single-shot voting. So he ran very strong television ads saying that he was working hard and tried to extend his base, and apparently it worked for him.
And now the key will be how this support that he has can carry him through to do better work for the city of New Orleans.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break and be right back.
Right.
Three spectacular shows at UNO Lakefront Arena. Friday, May 8th, and two shows Saturday, May 9th at 3 and 8 p.m. Lord of the Dance. Live on stage. Hurry, get your reserved seat tickets right now at the Arena box office, Ticketmaster locations, or charged by phone. Lord of the Dance. A Beaver production for Channel 6 and Miller Lite.
Quick Trim Weight Loss Clinics specialize in one thing, helping you lose weight. Don't go it alone. Call Quick Trim Weight Loss Clinics for help. Bifocal Spectacular, $69.95 at West Bank Optical. Includes eye exam and clear flat top 28 bifocals. West Bank Optical. For the best in auto security and sound, call Car Audio Connection, Metairie and Bandeville. Gift certificates available.
Don't replace that car, replace your engine. Give your car years of new life with a remanufactured engine from Pro Engine Sales. Financing available.
Lighter yet stronger. More power from less space. More space from less size. A drag coefficient among the lowest in the world. There's more than a pattern emerging here. It's the world's first use of cyber synthesis, where vehicles are designed, built, and tested in the virtual world so they'll perform better in the real world. The new Durango and the new Intrepid. New vision from the new Dodge.
It's king cake time, and Rouse's is king. We make king cakes fresh every day with delicious gourmet cinnamon dough and your favorite sweet and tasty flavors. Visit any Rouse's or use your credit card and call our king cake hotline. Share with family and friends. We ship anywhere in the USA with Mardi Gras throws, doubloons, the works. When it comes to king cakes, Rouse's is king.
We're Rouse's, your superstore.
And welcome back. We have some new numbers now in the mayor's race and the council-at-large race. Here they are.
Let's take a look. Mark Morial, of course, the winner, 78% with 74% of the precincts reporting, but all of this is academic. He is the winner. He has been reelected mayor of New Orleans for another term.
Now here is the race that isn't academic. Incumbent James Singleton with 43%, challenger Eddie Saper with 30%, with 74% of the precincts reporting, and now the number for Wilson, still 25%.
At 74% of the precincts reporting, doesn't look good for Peggy Wilson at this point.
Susan Howell had a comment earlier about what she saw shaping up here in this race. Susan.
Well, I think that what we're seeing here, we all underestimated the power of the Life organization to turn out the vote for Eddie Saper. And it also shows how polls can be so wrong in elections where there's low turnout and a big mobilization effort on behalf of a particular candidate, because a poll is an estimate of what would happen if everybody voted at that point in time. Well, everybody didn't vote, and people didn't vote to the same degree, and so an organizational effort can make a huge difference.
And Silas, the question now becomes, what happened to Wilson in her base? And apparently, it seems that Saper was able to erode some of her base. What happened?
Well, he was able to take away some of her support in the black community and sway those undecided white and black voters to his camp. The last few days of this election were very intense. There's a lot of finger pointing towards Peggy Wilson, a lot of name calling back and forward, and things came together. There was more momentum on the part of supporters for Eddie Saper, while apparently some of Peggy Wilson's supporters just lay back in the gap to see if they could just hold on to a fairly comfortable margin they had for second place. Keep in mind, they were in a very dangerous position in that second place. It was not a 10 or 15 point gap separating Peggy Wilson and Eddie Saper. It ranged anywhere from 5 to 7 points, and it was to the point we were saying it's too close to call. Anything can happen.
Susan, you mentioned earlier the undecided. Is this what we've seen here now? The undecided has changed the poll?
Probably not, because the undecided probably didn't vote. I mean, we don't have that high a turnout. I think what happened was the Life organization simply mobilized enough votes to wash out Peggy Wilson's support.
And so I guess this means that a lot of people are surprised at the amount, I won't say power, but control or influence that Life, meaning the mayor's political organization, has.
Well, when we look at the polls, the mayor has a lot of appeal with a segment of the community, black voters as well as white voters. And when we look at his rating in terms of influencing the outcome of an election based on the candidate that he supports, he can generate a positive net score of about 40 to 50%. He scores higher than any other elected official. So that means a lot for anyone who may consider running if they have the support of the mayor.
Well, now we're going to go to Peggy Wilson at her campaign headquarters. A lot of long faces, we assume there. Scott?
Well, Peggy Wilson's now taking her position, lining up with her family members and friends, getting ready to make a speech, hoping to speak to her supporters in just a second. Let me sit over here. Everybody's gathering around, some people trying to get some enthusiasm as we go. We're looking at the latest numbers as we speak. 43%, of course, for Mr. Singleton, 30% for Mr. Saper. Peggy Wilson still 5% behind with about 36,200 and some votes. Here the consensus seems to be that if they can we'll clear some room out so we can see Miss Wilson here. As you can see, it's a crowded room. Miss Wilson.
Shy children. I'd just like to say tonight, thank you, thank you, thank you to all the people who work so hard to help us fight this race. This was a very important race for all of us and for our city. And no matter what happens, and let me tell you, in no way am I ready to say what happened, because it hasn't happened yet, and we are not going to know what happens until we get the very last vote. I know that all of you are dedicated to our city and to the future of our city, and that's what I'm dedicated to, and that's why we fought this race, and that's why we all put ourselves out and worked hard and walked the streets and did things that we've never done before and that we never imagined ourselves to do. And I think that includes some of my children and some people that we dragged out in the streets from time to time. It was an amazing experience. The people of our city are wonderful people, and that is why we all work so hard and why we'll continue to work hard. Ladies and gentlemen, this city needs people who believe in honesty and integrity and who will fight for it. This city needs people who will stand up and fight for what they believe in. This city needs people who believe in something. And I know from knowing each and every one of you that each of you believes in me and believes in our city and believes in the people who share the life that we all share. And because you believe, we will have a better city in the future. We have done so much. We have come so far. Things are better here. Things are going to get even better. And I am going to be a part of the team that makes them better. I'd like to say to all the people out there that the very most important thing in a campaign and the very most important thing in life is a family. And I want to tell you that I have the greatest family in the whole world. My husband is a saint. My husband is a saint, and my My children are the most precious things in the whole world, and there is nothing that will ever make me think that there is anything more important than all of them are. So to them, I'd like to say thank you for all that you've had to put up with, and for all that I know you'll be putting up with in the future. I would like to say thank you to Deirdre Finn, my campaign manager. Is the Washington operative that they talked about on television. This is the Washington operative. She's very small. She's smaller than I am, but she is a giant, and I love her with all my heart.